if you're handling financial matters. You record every payment and every deposit that you're involved with. Every one, every time. Kind of like a checkbook register, but not nearly that minimal in terms of the information that you're recording. My checkbook register just says, some 1 or 2 word description, I don't know, utilities. No, not good enough. I paid a particular amount of money on a particular date to a particular vendor in satisfaction of a particular invoice, a copy of which I have kept. And I wrote a particular check, a copy of which I kept. Because my bank statement isn't going to show what the check looked like most of the time. Some banks do, but most banks don't. So I need to have those records. When you're thinking about this, I want you to imagine a bank. What do banks do? If you walked into a bank and said to the teller, I have an account here. I would like to know how much money is in my account. And I would like to know the last 5 transactions that occurred in my account. Because I think that some guy who claims to be a Nigerian prince has illegally accessed my account and taken money out. You would not want the teller to look back at you and say, well, Mr. Blumer, we think you have about $4,700, give or take. That would not be an acceptable answer. Neither would, we're sorry we can't tell you what the last 5 transactions in your account were yet, because we really don't keep track of that kind of stuff. We rely on our customers to do that for themselves. The Lord helps those who help themselves. We don't do that here at the incredibly big bank of the United States or whatever. That would be entirely unacceptable. You are held to the exact same standard that the bank is. You can't look at your mom or your dad and say, you got roughly $4,700, something give or take. I don't know. I can't remember what last checks were. I think one of them was the Comcast bill. I don't really remember. Oh, I'm sorry, did your power get shut off last week because I forgot to pay the electric bill? I know I paid the last 16 of those bills, but I kind of got busy and I just forgot. No, not acceptable. There is really no good excuse you can use for the fact that you forgot to pay your mother's electric bill, they shut the power off, and now her nebulizer doesn't work and she can't get her breathing treatments and the poor thing had to be hospitalized. That is not an acceptable standard of conduct. So too, not knowing what the money has been doing is not acceptable. Now, this can become very challenging if you're the agent under the power of attorney and you've begun doing your work and mom or dad is still running around doing stuff too. You're not technically required to account for what they're doing, but you kind of are, in a practical sense, going to be held accountable for that because they're going to want to know where the money went. And they're going to want you to invoke your power to investigate the transactions to figure out where it went. And sometimes your moms and dads are simply not going to cooperate in this process. I'm going to the bank. I'm taking $500 out because I want to, damn it. And I'm going to walk around with a big wad of 20s in my pocket because it makes me feel like a big deal. And I like cash. And I don't have to tell anybody about what the hell I did with my cash. It's none of their damn business. All of that is completely true. But it doesn't matter. Because your mom or dad, at some point in the probably near future, is going to be applying for Medicaid benefits because they don't have enough money to pay for their long-term care. And when they do that, go hat in hand to the state of Pennsylvania and the federal government looking for free medical care for the rest of their life, they will be met with whatever the endoscopic thing is that they do colonoscopies with. Because they're going to now go through a financial colonoscopy. Every aspect of their finances will be scrutinized for the last 5 years of their lives. And when they decided to go to the ATM and pull out $500 for no particularly good reason other than it made them feel like a big deal, and cash is king and I like cash, and it's none of their damn business, the Medicaid people are going to be offended by that because they're going to say, we can't tell what happened to that cash, so we're just going to pretend that he gave it away. And we really don't like people who give away their money and then turn around and ask us to help them out. You can't voluntarily impoverish yourself and then turn around and ask for free medical care. Because the Lord takes care of those who take care of themselves. And we don't really like Bill Gates giving away all his money and then turning around the next day and saying, I used to have $43 billion, now I don't have anything. Where's my free wheel of government cheese, and when do I get to have that little Medicaid access card? That's not cool, says the American taxpayer. We're not supposed to be taking care of Bill Gates. He could take care of all of us. Why the hell are we taking care of him? So you can't give away money and apply for Medicaid within 5 years of doing it. Period. Very, very few exceptions to that rule. And if we can't figure out whether you gave the money away or not, we assume you gave the money away. So it's up to you to tell us what you did with the money. And if your mom and dad are running around doing cash transactions with no paper trails, it's very hard to prove what they did with the money. And so as an agent, you might want to try and guide them away from that pattern of conduct. Maybe some happy accident with a pair of scissors and a debit card comes up and that card just gets snipped in half, and I don't even know how to get a new one of those, Mom. But you stop those kinds of transactions if you can. And if you can't, maybe you figure out ways of documenting the fact that it was Mom or Dad going to the ATM and taking the money out and what they were using it for. You may not be able to account for every penny of what they're spending it on, but you can hopefully account for at least a good portion of it. You know, Mom, if you really want to have cash, that's fine, but save your grocery receipt for me. Just throw me a bone here. Bring me back the receipt from Redner's or wherever she shops so I can put it in the little bowl and help figure out what in the world you did with the $500 that you took out every month. If you went to the restaurant and you bought lunch for you and the bridge group, throw me a bone, save the receipt, bring it back in. You know, the goal in all of this is to keep a paper trail. So even if you choose to ignore my advice tonight and you don't keep detailed records of what you do, at least try and do things in a way where you can go back later and follow your little paper trail breadcrumbs to figure out what was going on. Pay for things with debit cards and credit cards where I get some kind of a little statement that says I was at the Sunoco, and that's what I spent $45.19 on. As opposed to, I have no idea. Because I went in and paid for cash. You know, pay at the pump. You know, it's a slight difference, but it makes all the difference later on. Because sometimes when your parents really goober up their Medicaid financial paperwork and they go to apply for Medicaid, the Medicaid people call up the Area Agency on Aging's Adult Protective Services Unit and say, we think we got a winner here. We got this woman who looks like she's been stealing money from her parents, and we think you need to look into it. And they look into it and they say, I don't understand, your mother lived over at Country Meadows for the last 2 years, and yet she has a $488 a month grocery bill. How could a little old lady eat $488 worth of groceries while she's getting 3 square meals a day over at Country Meadows? Looks to us like you were doing your grocery shopping with her card. Better be able to prove you didn't. You're a fiduciary. You have a legal, you're like the bank. How do you possibly respond to that kind of an allegation? How could you defend yourself from that? Without paper. You got to have the paper. And that happens. It doesn't happen every day to everybody, but it happens. And when it happens, I get called. That's when the blood-sucking lawyer becomes your best friend. Oh, blood-sucking lawyer, you must know some blood-sucking lawyer trick that would allow you to get me out of this mess. And I say, yes. And unfortunately for you, my son goes to Bucknell. Bucknell costs $65,000 a year, so this is going to cost some money because Daddy's got a tuition check to write, and so pulling you out of the little mess because you went to the free seminar and didn't pay attention is now going to cost you, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, which cannot come out of Mom's money. You really wouldn't want the bank to deduct money out of your checking account when they hired the forensic accountants to figure out how they mismanaged your account. And then they came back and told you how they mismanaged your account, and they charged you for the privilege of telling you how they mismanaged your account. That would not be cool. And so neither can you pay your blood-sucking lawyer to try and get you out of your mess because you didn't keep records. Or maybe the mess was you couldn't chase after your parents, and they weren't taking good records. So maybe you want to say, you know what, Mom and Dad, if you want me to do this job for you, it's either I'm an all or nothing guy. I either handle everything or I handle nothing. But I cannot be responsible for handling what I'm doing and then also having the burden of trying to figure out what you're up to. So if you want my help, I'm going to give you my help, and if you don't want my help, I'm not, but it's not I'm not sharing power. It's the same story I give to some of my clients. I'm the lawyer. You come to me with a legal problem. You sit down, you shut up, and I'll tell you when I fixed your problem. And if I need to know something, I'll ask you. And if I'm not asking you, I don't need to know. I don't tell my surgeon how to do my appendectomy. I just sit there, and I go to sleep like I'm supposed to, and I wake up like I'm supposed to, and I complain to him about how much it hurts afterwards and how much it hurt before. But I certainly don't sit there and say, I think you should be using a number 10 scalpel, doctor. I don't think that number 8's quite big enough. I think I should have a little bit more of that fun juice that you give me to make me go to sleep. I don't do any of that stuff because I don't know anything about how to do an appendectomy. And my clients don't necessarily know a whole lot about law stuff. If you want to rent my brain, it's for rent. That's what all lawyers do. We just rent our brains out to people. But when you do, it's on my terms, not your terms. And when you are an agent, you may have to say the same thing to your parent. If you want my help, look, I went to the guy's lecture. He scared the crap out of me, and I'm insisting on doing this myself. I'll take care of everything. I'm the butler. There was an episode years ago of Downton Abbey. My wife doesn't like it, so I can never watch. I kind of liked it. But anyway, there was an episode that she did begrudgingly let me watch. And in this episode, there was this guy who got a new butler. He'd never really had a butler before. And he really made the butler angry because he got dressed on his own every morning. The butler would come in to dress him, and he was already dressed. And the butler would get angry. And he was like, I don't understand why does the butler hate me so much. Because you're not letting him do his job. His job is, it seems kind of degrading that he would have to dress me in the morning. I'm an adult male. I should be able to do this myself, he said. No. And he had to be explained. Look, we live in a society where people have roles, and your role is to stand there and let him pull your pants up for you. Don't mess with the order. It's worked for hundreds of years. And you're messing with the order, trying to be a nice guy, and all you're doing is making the guy mad. You're making him feel worthless and useless. And you're making him feel less than. He derives pride from this work. It's meaningful to him. Let him do his job. Make the same talk to your parent. Show him the episode of Downton Abbey if you can find it, and then say, look, if you want me to do this, let me do this. But we can't share power anymore. Either I'm sitting on the sideline waiting for my chance to get called in, or I'm in the game and I'm running the game. I'm the quarterback. You're over there on the bench. We don't have two quarterbacks. One or the other. It's a very effective way of avoiding the kinds of cross-purpose conflicts that create all kinds of financial problems when people are trying to account for their activities.